good morning. I must have put this on a bit earlier than I expected. I didn't know I'd done that. And I suddenly looked up why I'm on the screen. Here I am. Anyway, a little early, not too much early, maybe 30 seconds or whatever. I usually just sit here and wait till 9 o'clock. I see that nobody else is on and around. But hey, that's what happens. And now it's 9 o'clock. I'm just fiddling around with my top. So anyway, good morning. Sunday. Here we are. Well, I went to my little angel cards and asked, okay, what topic should I talk on today? Joy. Joyousness was what I really could see, because joyousness has a lot different than just being happy. It's like, as someone described it once, was like the bubbles in a champagne glass. It's like it just comes up and it feels so good and so happy and so right. So happiness has a lot to do with it. And as you are aware, I wrote a book called Secrets for Living Happily, with a whole lot of bits and pieces in it that I feel is really important to me at the time. It was actually the third book I wrote. Now, let's think about joy. When you look at your life, when you think about your life, what brings joy in there? It can be many, many different things can become joyous. That you can experience that wonderful feeling of being alive. Some things I prefer doing brings more joy than, say, others. Some of them you do because you need to do them, and that's the way it goes, and that's the way it is. But it's really, to me, the word joy by itself, but if you add joyous or joyousness, there gives a different feeling to the whole element of what you're doing and where you're going. And also, the word happy ends up being in there somewhere. It's like happy is kind of a step towards the joy. The joy of seeing family that you haven't seen for a long time. The joy for me, going on trips. I just love to travel. So the joy of hearing from somebody you haven't heard from a long time. It's a feeling that wells up inside. And it gives purpose, it gives meaning, it gives direction. Now, when I was younger, I didn't think about joy too much. I just was experiencing life. And then as you get older, what begins to happen, there's not as much change that goes on in your life. And so you don't get to really feel joyous, and you kind of maintain more of a plateau, you might say. But I was thinking a little bit about how we get to feel joyous and how we get to be aware. And I couldn't help it, but I had to sort of look at my Secrets for Living Happily book, because that is being happy has a lot to do with being joyous, because joyous adds to that extra component. And I'm going to just go over a couple of headlines that I have here, like my table of contents. 3 major internal causes for your unhappiness. So you're not going to be joyous if you're feeling unhappy, but they are worry, procrastination, and guilt. Each one of those 3 things are going to take you away from being joyous and feeling joy. And then I had 3 major external causes for unhappiness: money, lifestyle, and relationships. That which is outside. So we have our internal reasons why we're not really joyous or happy about life, which would add celebration. And it's so interesting when I think back. I used to celebrate a lot because I had a lot of things happening, and there was lots of things to celebrate and be joyous on. Excuse me here. And when you think about the major external causes, if you're worrying about money, if your lifestyle doesn't really suit you, and I think that's very important when it comes to lifestyle, to find what suits you the best and to work at creating that lifestyle that works. And of course, a major one is relationships. If you're having trouble with relationships, if you're in a relationship that isn't working the way that you want, you're certainly not going to feel joyous. I'll tell you that for sure. Been there, done that. But it's like we work a lot on these things because we want to grow. Now, there's many other tools that we can work to bring joy in our lives, but I think mainly we need to know exactly what we are really wanting to create. So it goes back to taking a look at what are your goals. Do you have room in your life to be happy and joyous? Or is it filled with things that you have to do and or things that, you know, it's kind of pressure. I find there are certain times, I mean, I know when I was raising kids and working and studying and learning and doing it all, there wasn't a lot of time to think of, am I joyous or am I happy here? It was just doing. Was later on when I began to take a look. Look, I really enjoy doing this. This really makes me happy. Or I feel better when I've got this or doing that or whatever, whichever way that operates and works. So it's like really coming to terms with what is the main things in your life that has you feel pleasure. Because you're not going to feel joyous if you're not feeling pleasure. So the pleasure element as to how, what, when, and where. And very often we begin to make do with less than because we're not sure how to get to where we want. I'm not saying that you need to be joyous every day. I don't know if that's practical, to be honest, but you can plan on doing things that give joy. You can hang out with people that add to your life and give joy. There's many ways that people begin to experience joyousness in all sorts of ways and design. So it really is about what are you going to be doing and how are you doing it in the, like you might say, that encompasses your whole life. I don't believe that we live in joyousness for all the time. I think that's a little much to ask for ourselves because life is very much up and down. We have challenges, we have new things that come along, we have conflicts, we have all, but that does not mean that we cannot create a pleasure that brings us joy into our lives, to make room for that, whether it's a walk in nature, whether where I was going to say along the beach, where I spent a lot of time in my childhood on beaches, but now I live near a lake and I lived by the water for many, many years here too. But it's like pleasure can come from it's not about spending money usually. Joyousness comes from meeting people that you haven't seen for a long time and you just feel really good about that. It has about meeting together. I find community, family, things like that you get a lot from can bring a lot of joy or not, but we're looking for joyousness in the life because it adds something. And I think that when we are joyous, when we are happy with what's going on, we're healthier. And I had to go again because of what I've gone through in the last year and a bit is that I've had to look at that. Where do I have my joy? And so when this little card came up and I had to really think about that, where do I get my joy? What is joyous for me? Well, doing my YouTube shows gives me the most joy, preparing them, thinking about them, sitting down, talking with you because after the lockdowns and I couldn't have classes and got away from having classes and things. And then again, sort of being not feeling very well before we knew exactly what was happening to my health. So now it's like I get a wonderful time period to feel joyous about it and enjoy. And mostly I enjoy it. And I particularly enjoy your comments because it's like letting the world in because I'm still haven't really put a big imprint on the external world in my environment, mainly because of health. But that is happening. I am feeling so much better with so much more energy and just very excited about creating more joyous experiences. So the thought today really is just to sit back for a moment and think about your life and just think about what gives you the most joy. And what are you doing? Are you doing that more? Like, in other words, how much percentage are you doing things that give you joyousness? Now, sometimes it may be on that happy, like what brings happiness or what makes you feel happy. Joyous has a bigger impact on it. But it's like, if you can figure out what it is, and if you're not got it in your life, then you can also plan to create it into your life and make it part of your life. Because then I think you get healthier for it. I think that you feel better for it and you grow. And that's one of the elements we know is really, really important, to be able to grow into a state where you're happy, where life gives you pleasure, and that you can feel this joyousness. So I trust you'll have a great Sunday. I trust wherever you are that things are moving really well. Who can believe that next Sunday is actually in February? With several of my friends have mentioned how quickly January is gone. Usually January for us who are in the cold and the snow and everything is long. And it seems to have gone so fast this year. And pretty soon, come Thursday, we are in February. I was going to say January. We're in February then. And so a good friend of mine reminded me that on Wednesday in Norma Talks, I'll be doing my card reading for February, which is, thank goodness she reminded me. I might not have twigged. But anyway, so on Wednesday, we will have the reading and something else as well, as I usually do. And then, of course, that's Wednesday. Then, and Monday night too is mental mind treatments. Anyway, thanks for watching. Trust this helps. It'll spark some little bit of thinking in your mind and everything else. You take care and enjoy. Well, don't take too much care because we want you to have a happy life. Enjoy. And I'll be back on Monday night with mental mind treatments. Bye for now.